Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Desi's podcast. You might think I'm alone here, but I'm not. I've got a very special guest joining the show in a few minutes, in a few seconds actually. But before bring him in, just wanted to wish all of our viewers, supporters, and those of you who download the podcast a very happy New Year, and wish you all a safe and fantastic 2022. And it's a great show to start off the new year with. This is our third year now, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to be speaking to a fan from the state that officially, I think, is the only state that calls football its official sport, which is fantastic. I wish more sport states would get on board with this idea. But let's bring him into the show and get a conversation started and learn a lot more about what's happening in his part of the world. So it's a really warm welcome for the first time to Samir. Hello, Samir. How are you, my friend?
Hello, I'm good. I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, good, good. Happy New Year, my friend.
Yeah, wish you the same. Festive wishes.
And obviously, just to confirm, you live in the beautiful state as well.
Yes, yes. I'm from Goa.
So, I mean, people flood there for New Year's Eve and what have you, but you live there, so you experience it every single year. It must be amazing. Although the last couple of years it might have been different to the previous New Year's Eves.
It's amazing. At the same time, it's dangerous too.
Yeah, absolutely. We've still got to be careful. I mean, I'm living in a country now at the moment where we're having our third wave, fourth wave. I've lost count. But it's not looking too good at here at the moment, especially when you look at the figures. But it's something that we've got to live with, I suppose. No matter how many boosters we get, it's something you have to be careful about moving forward, and it's going to be part of our lives for the next few years. So let's try and deal with it. But let's get on to more cheerful things and talk about our favorite sport, one of our favorite sports in my case, but football. And obviously, I just mentioned that it's, I think, the only state that mentions that football is their official sport, which is fantastic. And whenever you think of sport, football in particular, Goa is one of the names that comes up. Just tell us a little bit about first what it's like living there in that sort of environment where you grow up with football.
Yeah, what you have begun with is absolutely true. You can see football and read football everywhere here. You can find a ground maybe every 2 or 3 kilometers you go. You start playing football since the very beginning, since your childhood. So you know about the game, you hear about the game, you see the game every day, and that's what we Goans are about. Like football is a main staple game.
And is that, I know people often separate North and South Goa, but I suppose football is across the board.
Yes, yes, it's across the board.
And I know you're proudly wearing the Goa shirt, and we will come on to what's happening with the Goas this current season. But let's talk about football in Goa and learn a little bit more because it is a breeding ground of a lot of our national players. And my co-host, who's not joining us today, is busy with work, Nevin, and he's based in Kerala. So every time he puts his camera on, I'm very jealous of his background. But it could be the same for you as well if you're outside and showing me some glimpses of Goa. But tell us a little about the structure of football and how you perceive it, because what we talk about often on this show is about the lack of structure in the states. It doesn't develop talent, doesn't support talent. What about in Goa, considering it's the official sport?
Football, you can see among various age groups, like for example, Dempo, Salgaonkar. There are many, the older clubs. They have a structure. I wouldn't say it's the best structure or the most developed structure, but yeah, they do have it. They do promote football at various levels. We can see the under 14s, 16s. Then you can see the under 18, 21. You can even find Goa in recent years, like you can find them in under 18s, then under 21s. Then we have our reserve team that plays in GPL. We have even won it around 2 or 3 years back. So that's a good sign. And then we have Taka League, the Police Cup. There are many uh, football leagues happening all around the age groups, in Goa.
And you mentioned some of the historical names of not just Goa football, but Indian football, Dempo, Churchill, Salgagoa, just to name a couple there. But it is interesting European football, which is what I always find interesting. Is it big there in Goa? People follow European clubs, particularly EPL clubs.
EPL clubs, it's true, but the names that you have mentioned about the older clubs from Goa, I'm a bit from the later generation. Like, I have missed it because I hear from people that it was crazy back in the past. Like, people used to flood the stadiums. There used to be the Salsette part of Goa for Salgaonkars and the northern part for Dempos. It was mainly, I can be wrong, but this is what I've heard that it used to be crazy. People used to, even go for the away games. They used to hire buses, tracks, and whatnot. Yeah, it used to be really crazy. And I've even heard that there used to be like cursing and whatnot in the games, like because people used to get involved in betting, and it was a bit of like some of them had their family involved, for example Churchill brothers, so it was a bit of more personal. But nowadays you don't find it. They need to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. They do, and we'll talk about whether they are going to come back and follow the Gauls like you do, and if it's or is it just a younger generation, the generation that's coming through that's supporting FC Goa, or whether you are seeing older people now wearing that orange jersey a lot more. But in terms of the older clubs, if I remember rightly, they won the first five or six I leagues. So you had the champion club from Goa, and it was huge. So I don't know if older supporters have told you what it was like the transition from going from the I League to the ISL. Were they happy with that move, considering they were dominating Indian football? They were always challenging for the I League.
They absolutely don't like it. They don't like it at all. So you will often see people, the older people, like cursing ISL. Some of them even don't like FC Goa.
Really,
They're not happy. Yeah, especially not the new generation, particularly the older ones. So they're not very happy. They say that it's money oriented because yeah, some part of it is true because ISL is mostly franchise based. So it's true, and also it does not have a promotion and relegation. And I assume that was the major reason why Tempo and Salgar were pulled out of the national system. So hopefully things get better from next year when we are going to have the system back, the roadmap back.
yeah, and there's something that we've been crying out for: relegation and promotion to the ISL. And obviously, Churchill Brothers are competing in the I League at the moment. It's sad that it's been postponed for a week or so. Hopefully, that's as much as maximum it's postponed due to COVID. And that might be a route way. Do you see other clubs then taking an interest in joining the ISL through that roadmap of playing the qualifiers and joining the I League and hopefully getting promotion? Do you see the clubs being interested in that, the older clubs?
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. I think it is about time they are going to come back, especially Dempo. I think because I'm not so sure about it, but I have this gut feeling, and I've even have this some news is even making waves. But maybe let's see what happens.
And in terms of the rivalry, and you mentioned it was big rivalry. What are the two games, or is it three games or four games that are really big there in Goa? Whenever a couple of clubs play,
Yeah, it should be, especially Salgaonkar and Dempo. It's a big game. Like I think, and it is Salgaonkar from the south and Dempo from the north. So it was something like that. Yeah,
right? Okay, so that's a game to look out for. Hopefully, that will rival. If there's
yeah,
anything that can rival the Kolkata derby, and we know how that's gone at the moment, it's not the best rivalry of what it used to be, but historically it was incredible. But that's something I'll look into. Something new to me in terms of the rivalry in Goa. When did you start supporting the Gauls? Was it a natural choice?
the goals. Since day one. Yeah, since day one. Yeah, it was a natural choice. I suddenly found a hobby in football, and this was just it took me away with it, and I'm still flowing away.
And it's unfortunate for you guys in a way that the closed door ISL is being held in your beautiful state for the past 2 years, but you can't go to any of the games. That must be really hurting.
Yeah, that's so frustrating, but we try our best, to make our presence felt. What we do is every home game at Fatod, at of Vasco or at Tilak, we make sure that some of our boys, make our presence felt at the entrance at least. So we wave our flag, show our banners, then we try to attend training sessions. So yeah, as Ravi said, club director, that even your slightest presence means the world to us, and that's what we aim to do because we
Yeah,
love the club.
we'll talk about Robbie in the show as well because he likes Twitter, and it's good that he communicates, and it'll be good to know what he's like as an owner, or certainly one of the leading figures in the club. But just in terms of not being there as a support, well, I should ask you: do you follow an EPL club?
No, I follow a Spanish club, Real Madrid.
Oh, right, okay, not Barcelona, which is good because I was going to say that's not the best team to follow at the moment.
Yeah.
I suppose our friendship will continue now that you're saying you don't follow an EPL club. So hopefully I can get you on board with my club, which is Leicester City.
Oh,
But
that's great.
yeah, I live in the city and been following them for a long, long, long time. I've had a season ticket for ages. But one of the things was really hard during the lockdown was not being able to go to the stadium, knowing they're playing just down the road and not being able to go there. I mean, we weren't even allowed to go near the stadium. People just avoided crowds and what have you, and there was restrictions, police restrictions. So for yourselves, you have to limit it to watching it on TV. That has got to be tough for a football fan for 2 years. I don't think any other league has been behind closed doors for this long as the second season for the ISL as well.
Yeah, but what I can't get my head around is they play cricket in the nation, but they can't do the same for football. So that doesn't make sense. But at the same time, I feel what they're doing is correct because you see, ISL is so well maintained in terms of COVID situation. We rarely have any. I don't think we have had any problems. Maybe one or two cases, but for 2 years now, it has been really well maintained and it's so strict, and that's nice.
Yeah, I mean that's what you can say that the bubble is seems to be working and they seem to be managing it, which is a big plus for the federation and the way they've managed this, or the ISL anyway. So that's a big thumbs up to them in terms of how they're managing it. But prior to COVID, what was match day like for you? Were you able to get to many games?
I don't miss a single game. I'm a season ticket holder. I travel to away games,
Oh wow!
and yeah. So, but it's not been the luckier part of me, the away games. We have lost all the games that I've attended,
Don't
and
give up, my friend. Don't give up. That has to change.
yeah, and sadly, one of them was the final. Oh, that was heartbreaking.
The semi-final.
No, the finals.
Oh right. Oh, you went to both of the finals as well.
Yeah, the first final was in Mumbai, and the second one was in Goa.
Right. Okay. Well, just to give you an example, my club Leicester went to four finals, FA Cup finals, and we lost all of them. I was lucky enough to go to
Oh,
this year or last year's, so we won that, and it was one of the.
yeah.
As a Leicester fan, we never dreamt of winning the league, but we did. But what we dreamt about was winning the FA Cup. Since a young boy, and everybody I know, every Leicester fan, that was the one dream we had was winning the FA Cup, and it came true. So stick with your team. It will happen. It will happen. But how is match day normally for you? If you're
So
playing at
I'm
home
yeah okay. So we usually flock the stadiums by 5 p.m. So
for a 7:30
uh,
kickoff.
yeah, for the 7:30 kickoff. So we have a block called as K block, and we always sit in the East Lower stand because I belong to a supporters club that is East Lower Army. So we think or we have this in mind that the K block is lucky for us. So
Right.
we try to go as early as possible and reserve that part for us. And then we have our friends coming, then we chat, we enjoy, then there's music before games, so we try to show our moves, Then yeah, that's what it is. We try to come as early as possible.
Well, wherever there are Goan people, there's always music and dancing, and
Yeah.
it's always a good atmosphere and party atmosphere. So I'll have to put that on my bucket list to come and join the. Is it the Lower South Block Army?
East lower,
East
east lower.
East Lower Block Army. I'll have to try and put that on my bucket. I will put it on the bucket list and see if I can take
Yeah.
advantage of it and sample it. In terms of following the goals, and you've mentioned the heartbreaks over losing two finals and the heartbreak of losing last year's playoffs on penalties as well. So you have been through the mill, as it were, supporting this club, but you keep going. And one thing that your club is renowned for is producing talent and supporting young talent. And you must have seen, this development, and one of the reasons why you support the club passionately as you do.
Yeah, see, what I have loved about this club is even though we may not be getting results, we are consistent. We follow our model, and we are a strict budget team. Like we are not like pour the cash and get the best players. We make players, so that is what we fans appreciate. So you may not win, but you go down fighting. So that was the feeling last year because we were rebuilding, we were a new team. Still, we took them to the penalties. So that's what we want to see. We want the team to fight. And it's not like we have not won. We have won the league, we have won the Super Cup, we have won the Duran Cup.
Yeah, for the first
So,
time this year. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, results will come. People need to be patient.
And I think an example of that was that in the transfers, you brought 5 or 6 players from the reserves into the first team. I think that's
Yeah.
a sign of the development that's going on in the club and the way it's being.
So even last year, FC Goa has always been the only team which has the most local players in their squad. So ISL was mainly initiated so that you develop your local players, and that is what we have been doing. We have some 14 or 16 players in our squad, so that's the maximum number any team has. But there are some teams, okay, I'll not take the names, but they hardly have two or three of their actual local players. So that's not development. You just can't keep buying from here and there. You need to have a setup, and then you make players and then see the results.
And you mentioned him before, but Mr. Tandon, and he seems to be very keen on this routeway for the club. And is it the Forza Goa Foundation or something like
Yes.
that he's set up? What's he like? Because he's very seems to be a very progressive sort of person and seems open to communication with the fans, telling them he seems to be very transparent.
Yeah, he seems to be a good chap. Like he and Ravi, they both seem to be, more proactive. They do a lot of work. They have tried their best in getting. See, ultimately, people are asking for a big tie-up, say for Red Bull. So Goa is a small market. People are not being realistic about it. So then again, we were talking about Akshay and Ravi. They seem to have big ambitions because I don't know if you have seen, he recently shared on Twitter the academy plans and they were quite impressive. Even Ravi has been pulling out gems from all over the world. So yeah, they have been really good.
And is that part of the Force Goal Foundation, or is it something
For
different?
Posagova Foundation, basically, as far as I know, they aim at youth football. Like we have child groups playing in that. Basically, I guess it was around 10 years. 10 years. Then they have Baby Girl League. Then they have women's football, Vedanta League. They participate in it. Then yeah, they make certain charity, uh, you know, outcomes like yeah.
Well, I'm going to try and get in touch with Mr. Tand and see if I can get him on the show. We've had the owner of Orisha on the show, and it was a real eye opener speaking to him and hearing his plans for Orisha FC and seeing how they're developing. So it'll be good to see if we can get Mr. Tandon on as well. But do you think the FC Goa and the plans they have in place already, and you've talked about youth football, the baby leagues. You talk about the women's football. Do you think that will have an effect on the historical clubs? You know, we've mentioned hopefully that other clubs might, once the promotion relegation comes in, they might look at coming back into the national structure. Do you think that'll affect them, or are they, because of who they are backed by? Yeah, they're big businesses. They're back Dempo and what have you. That they'll be fine.
What I feel is going to happen is this impact, you know, it's going to be healthy for Goan football. Like it's going to be like more competitive. More players will be, produced because all these four, five big clubs will be like, behind producing good players, and more youngsters will, want to get involved in football. Leaving cricket aside, more and more because they see good opportunities coming for them. Because more the number of club, more opportunities that you get and more chances do you get of playing professional football. So what I feel is it's going to have a positive impact.
Yeah, obviously, the more competition you have, hopefully, and the more openings young people have, they'll see a route way for them, and it'll just be good for Goa football. Um, and you know, in terms of supporting the Goals, you've mentioned, like I said again, the heartbreaks over the last few years, but last season, and you've had successes. So, like you said, you know, you won the Durand Cup for the first time. You won the Shield 2 years ago. But as a supporter, whenever we do the preview show, when the ISL starts, we always put Goa in the top four. You know, in the EPL we have the top six. We feel Goa is always in the top four. Is that how you see them?
To be honest, I had my predictions as we are going to finish top two, but that's not how things end up always.
I mean, when we started it, and when we put, I didn't say Goa we're going to finish in the top four. What we meant is that there's certain clubs that will always be in the playoffs, and you talk about ATK, Mumbai, but you also include Goa in that, and Bengaluru. They're the traditional top four in the league. Is that how you see the league? Apart from this season, and we'll come to this season as well.
Yeah, for next 3 or 4 years, or maybe longer period, that's going to be the structure because you see, ATK Mohan Bagan and Mumbai City, they have big investors. So obviously they are going to be ambitious and they are going to be in top four. FC Goa, we all know, we always give results. So we are going to be the third one. And fourth one, it depends because we see Hyderabad, they have a very, very good model. So it's going to be Hyderabad, it's going to be Bengaluru. There are so many good teams. There's going to be Kerala. See, if Kerala just lacks a big investor, they are a very, very good team backed by amazing fans. So I think it's going to be competitive.
Well, you've got them later on this evening, so we'll see if there is any
Yeah.
sort of a gap between yourselves and the club from Kerala. But in terms of Goa, I mean, your club did us proud in the Champions League. We thought they performed really well. What were your thoughts?
We were not expecting those performances, but we were really really proud of our team. Like the way we played, we looked confident rather than just sitting deep and playing out, just trying to survive over there. We gave them a tough time, and that's what makes us really proud of our team.
And you did the nation proud because you know playing in that sort of level of football, and apart from the couple of results against the Iranian team, you really, and you could have won a couple of games as well with a bit more luck that you always need in these big competitions. So let's move on to this season. And you felt that with the signings and with the way the club had finished last season, narrowly on penalties, missing out on the playoffs, you were looking for a top two position. But then the league didn't start off too well with three back-to-back defeats.
Yes, it was quite surprising, I don't understand what went wrong because we had a pretty long preseason. We were like only among two or three teams that had a longer preseason. So we won the Duran Cup. We played better preseason matches, competitive matches. So we all of us expected the team to be more competitive and more complete. But I don't know what really went wrong there. Maybe the boys didn't have their mindset right. As one said, that it was more of a psychological impact rather than physical. So as you see now, players are playing better and better and better. Every game goes by, we are doing well. But only thing, the missing piece of the puzzle is a striker who can finish. And I don't blame Aram because he had two starts, he scored two goals, and injuries are not helping him either. So I think the club needs to be a bit ambitious and go all out in the January transfer window. Just sign a striker and we'll do well.
One of the surprises in that off season was the club letting go of Pandita. What are your thoughts on that? A young Indian talent,
I felt it was absolutely a right decision
really?
because yeah, it was. If you go to look at it in all aspects, it was a right decision. See, he asked for minutes. Okay, we gave him minutes in the Champions League.
Mm.
He was struggling. He was struggling. Okay, and then we have Devendra coming up. Okay, he showed his worth in the Durand Cup. He was the joint highest scorer. And when you get 60 lakhs and the player is not happy to stay, then why do you want to keep prisoners? So you let him go. You let him go if he's not happy. You take the money, and that was really good money on him. Now, no offense to him, he does not start for Jamshedpur now. He wanted minutes, but he's not starting for them. So it feels like an absolute masterstroke by Ravi and team.
Yeah, it's just that looking from the outside, you saw a young Indian striker that was getting in some minutes with the national team being let go by the team that's renowned for bringing up talent. But I see your point where you're coming from. But when you look at the squad and you look at some of the names, you've got a brilliant young goalkeeper in Diraj. You've got the likes of Brandon, Seriton, and then you had Glenn Martins, who did incredibly well for the national team. Um, and then you brought in Dylan Fox as well. So the squad was looking pretty strong already from you know, going into the season.
If you go to see our squad, overall squad is like a top three, top four squad. Only things are not getting well for us. Our squad is really amazing. We just need a striker or maybe the right combination, I must say. And our squad is really good. We just need to get it sorted, the right combination.
Now we have to talk about the main thing that's happened in the last few weeks. What was worse, losing Coach Libero or Coach Fernandez?
I must say Lavera because he had things going in his ways. But at the same time, we felt that we needed a change. But what happened with one is we have not had a much longer time with him, so it didn't have that big impact. But to answer your question, it has to be Lovera.
And do you think the way the season started, and I mean, like I said, you started the preseason really well, winning the Durand Cup. But do you think there were some issues in the dressing room at the start of the season in the ISL
Yeah.
with the results, and we just couldn't see the changes coming? We couldn't see what was going to turn around your season under Coach
Yes.
Fernandez.
Yeah, there had to be problems, man. There had to be problems. Three losses is not acceptable. There had to be problems.
And now you're back to having, well, this time it's Coach Miranda in charge. But just we'll talk about Coach Miranda and what your hopes are. But just talking about Coach Fernandez and him leaving, what was the feeling amongst Goan fans, the Gores? Were they angry?
We were very not angry. We were disappointed because you had the team going, performing, getting better day by day, and then this abrupt decision, just to, you might say that it was not for money, but it does not make sense to leave your project midway. It was understandable if you get it in the beginning of the season or maybe at the end when the team is doing really bad. But midway when things were getting better, it's not acceptable. We were very disappointed.
Because for me, living in England, it's very surprising. It doesn't happen. I can't remember the last time it happened where a manager from a top club goes to another top club during the season. It's just unheard of. And the reaction in this country would have been really, really, against that person. A lot of comments on social media and what have you. And then what happens is that you play him managing 80k last week, and we had the show last week, and we were saying whether the players would be high fiving or hugging Fernandez because he was still saying that he still got a lot of love for Goa, FC Goa. What were your thoughts, and what were the feelings on the
No,
day?
no matter like how much you say that you love your former team, and then why did you leave mid-season? That doesn't make sense. Then, if you noticed after the game, or maybe I have missed it, he did not go to our dugout to shake hands. Maybe I did not see him going there. Maybe he met Clifford. Okay, that's fine. He shook hands, but I think things were a bit salty between both camps. So yeah, it is what it is. Time to move on.
It seems to be that the Goals are very forgiving, and it is what it is. I think sums it up. So what can you do when a coach wants to leave? He's got a clause in his contract that allows him to leave. And I can see from the Twitter that Mr. Tandon wasn't happy with the way things were done, but it was out of his hands once the clause had been triggered. Like you said, you can't keep a prisoner, so it was a bit out of everybody's hands. He
Yeah, obviously, like you don't give your team time to make a decision, time to convince you, time to talk it out, and suddenly on the final day, on Sunday, you tell the management, okay, that you want to leave. So that's not right. You need to give your, even though you have a buyout clause, you need to talk things out properly. Give the team time to make a proper decision. So that doesn't fit well with everyone.
Before the reason I'm asking you this question is, do you have who's the biggest rivalry at the moment with as a Goa FC Goa fan? Do you have one?
Mm, Not really,
I was going to say
because
it's not going to be ATK moving forward, is it?
okay. It has to be Mumbai. It has to be Mumbai. 80K, no, not as much, but it has to be Mumbai. But for me, we as fans, we have never had rivalries because every other club has appreciated and admired Goa
That's
as
the
their
thing I
second
always
favorite
find.
club.
Yeah, and nobody's got a
Yeah,
bad thing to say about your club. You
yeah.
don't seem to have
So
any
that is why.
animosity.
Yeah, exactly. So we are like a mine, and everyone comes to find the hidden gems from us. They take it away. We seem to do the right thing, and people take advantage of it. So that's the thing happening.
And it's also the fact that you come from such a beautiful state that everybody wants to visit there anyway. So let's keep the friendship going. But you mentioned that you also visit away games as well. What's that as a fan when you go to other cities wearing that orange shirt or a white shirt or the away shirt?
Kerala people are really nice. They're welcoming. I haven't been to Kerala, but this is what my friends have told me. Bengaluru people, not so nice. Mumbai, not many people,
Not many
uh,
people.
not many fans.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Pune, not many fans again. But you can feel the, some sort of tension between both sides. That is there for obvious reasons. Yeah,
That's
it's
really
it's
interesting because when I go to away games here, there's a few games, few grounds traditionally Asian people or people of that are not English
brown
would
people.
not would not go to. There's a couple of grounds that you would not go to. You're asking for trouble if you go there, even now. But otherwise, when you go to away games, it's generally okay. You don't have that sort of atmosphere. So it's interesting to hear from you that when you go to Bengaluru that you find a little bit of animosity, a bit of aggression, but when you
Yeah,
go to Mumbai and you can wear your shirt and colors quite openly, it's not a problem.
but in Chennai, our experience was really bad because they tore our posters. The stones were pelted on us,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, yeah, not many, but it was what happened. And even in Bengaluru, they were like teasing us, uh, some sort of rowdy behavior. And yeah, some sections are always like that. we can't blame the entire fan base.
No, of course not, of course not. And that's disappointing to hear in the ISL that that happens when we are trying to bring up football, which is not the biggest sport, but we're trying to make it into the biggest sport. That's really disappointing. There are some elements like that. But I know all of the clubs have these really passionate supporters, but there is a limit. The other club that I really like talking to was the Highlanders. We had a supporter from the Highlanders, and they come across as really friendly. And that's on my bucket list is so long that I'm going to have to take a season just to watch all the games there. But let's move on to the loss of Fernandez and how you think that will have an impact. What do you think of Coach Miranda, by the way?
Derek and Clifford, they are pretty, experienced with Goan players. So I think the players will be fully pumped and charged. They'll give their best, and
What about the foreign
I'm not
players?
so the foreign players, he has Derek has managed the team for 4 or 5 games when Lovera
Mm.
left, and I think he knows them, and I think he'll try to go with the current system. He won't make much changes, make tweaks here and there. So I think it should be either really good or really bad. So nothing in between that.
Well, it starts like I said today with a really big game against the Blasters, and if you win, you're only 2 points behind because the gap isn't that big to a playoff position, and we're nearly at the halfway stage or are there at the moment. So, what are you looking for in the rest of the season? I know you said it could be either really good or really bad. What's really good look like, and what's really bad look like?
From this point of time, really good looks like a top four finish,
Okay.
and really bad looks like a bottom two or bottom three. So yeah,
Well, bottom two one's already taken, so I'd be very very surprised with the talent that you've got that you would finish in the bottom two. There's a couple of teams that are struggling. One is definitely going to finish in the bottom, despite the managerial change. I can't see that changing. But you said that one thing that's missing from your team at the moment is a striker, and you're looking for the team or the management to go out and into the transfer market. Is there any names that you think?
I really appreciate David Williams from ATK Mohun Bagan. Only,
He's going
only
to be
due
too
to the fact
expensive.
Yeah, only due to the fact that he's from the bubble and he's already in Goa, so visa issues won't be a problem and you don't have to quarantine. It would be a smooth move. But again, he's the Asian quota player, so it doesn't make sense for them to let go of him. Yeah,
And anybody that in the reserves or somebody that might come through.
reserves.
I mean,
Um,
if you're looking for a striker, you have to go outside the bubble because I can't see any team selling a striker because they're a rare commodity, especially if they're hitting goals.
um, there are a lot of options for ISL, so I'm not quite sure about it. But maybe yeah, we could go for Bright. He's a good option.
And are the coaches more inclined to go towards Indian players or foreign players
In what sense?
if they're going into the transfer market?
See, the Indian market is very saturated. Like players are overpriced because there are a few of them. So if you get two times player, or two times in quality in a foreign player, so I think that makes more sense to go for a foreign player because you get them for quite cheaper rate, and the Indian players are just overpriced. It doesn't make sense.
And who are the players that really not caught your eye, but have really not impressed either, but you want to highlight that have done their job, as it were, this season so far?
Liston Kulako, he was a reserve team captain, and unfortunately, I completely blame it on Lovera for his departure because he was such a good player. He barely had minutes, and we lost him because of that reason. And he is showing his potential everywhere.
Yeah, that was a surprise when he was let go. But again, it's about game time, and but unlike Pandita, he seems to be producing it at the moment. Well, it's been a absolute pleasure speaking to you and learning so much about Goan football, and especially about the Gauls. And I really feel for you in terms of what you've been through, losing two top managers and the heartbreak of the penalty shootout and the two finals. But I know good times are ahead. But the main thing is that you're supporting a club that's doing it the right way. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And you're still ranked in the top four. But I'm pretty certain, now that I've met you and I've heard a lot about what the Goan football is all about and what the Gauls are all about, I'll be keeping my eye on you and hoping that you get into the playoffs, because we want you back on the show, uh, and talking about the playoffs and when Goa get there, and that'll be a good finish. But for today,
yeah. Yeah, likewise, mate. It was really nice talking to you, and let's see what the season holds for us.
well, hopefully,
And be back. Yes, yeah. Be back
absolutely.
here soon.
Yeah, it starts this evening, my friend. I'll be watching that game, so I'm looking forward to it now even more, having heard you. And my co-host Nevin won't like it. That'll be good for. He's from Kerala, obviously. He's got a few allegiances, but I'll be rooting for the Goas tonight. So, but although having said that, he loves Goa as well, and what FC Goa is doing as well. So he'll have mixed feelings. It's a win-win for him. But again, thank you for your time, my friend, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show again.
Yeah, let's hope we get the 3 points today. See you
Fingers
soon.
crossed for you. Take care, my friend.
Uh,
Bye bye.
yeah, for sure. Bye.